Right, have any of you guys heard of the Fifth Watch Company? They're basically a fashion watch company that makes kind of watches similar to like MVMT and Daniel Wellington, a lot of quartz pieces. Well, they recently came out with a new line of Swiss-made automatic timepieces that are surprisingly good. They've done a really amazing job of making that jump from fashion watches into, more high-end timepieces that would be appealing not only to, normal people who would normally buy fashion watches, but even people who are more into watch collecting and kind of know their stuff a little bit more. Let's take a look. Hey guys, my name's Dave. Welcome back to Just the Watch, the budget watch collecting channel, where I like to talk about everything related to watch collecting on a budget. Today we're looking at the Swiss automatic watch from the Fifth Watch Company. And again, it's not what I would have expected out of them. I mean, this is a watch that I think they really knocked it out of the park on almost every metric. The design is very classic and timeless. The proportions are absolutely perfect. I mean, this is a 40 millimeter watch with 20 millimeter lugs that is only around 10 millimeters thick. It is fully Swiss made and beautifully finished. It has one of the prettiest dial colors that I've seen. And inside it has a very nicely finished Swiss movement from STP Movement Company, which is a newer one. But basically this is another clone of the ETA 2824, similar to the Sellita SW200. So while the movement manufacturer is a newer one, the movement inside is based on a really tried and true architecture that is actually keeping really accurate time as well. To top all of that off, this watch also features 100 meters of water resistance, and it actually has a little bit of lume on the dial that is functional. So while this is more of a dressy look, it kind of fits into the dress watch category, it also is the kind of thing that would make a really fantastic daily wear watch. When you top that with a sapphire crystal, you have something that looks like a dress watch, and yet you're not going to be afraid of wearing it at all. Retail price on this watch is just over $500, but again, occasionally it drops on sale under that. And I think that is a pretty good price for what they're offering here. Now, I do want to mention that this watch was given to me by the Fifth for review purposes, and I do get to keep it after the review is done. So please keep that in mind as you watch the rest of the review. But with that said, let's go ahead and take a closer look at the watch. So here's the Fifth's Swiss-made automatic dress watch. This comes in a number of different color options, but this one is the two-tone gold and silver case with the green dial and then a matching green leather strap. Now, I think this would definitely fit into the dress watch category, and that might be the primary purpose you'd use it. But really, I think with the specs that they've done and the kind of design, it reminds me more of just a great all-around kind of casual watch as well. You are getting 100 meters of water resistance on this. You are getting actually functional lume. It's not like fantastic lume, but for a dress watch, it's pretty good. And then you've got some additional markings on it. You've got a very detailed second track around the very edge of the dial, and then crosshairs in it as well. So this actually, I think, makes for a great everyday wear piece that can be dressed up and used, as a more formal dress watch. So I really like what they've done here. Lately, I've been looking more and more for these kind of, one watch collection kind of watches, like a great watch that can just really, take a daily beating and still look great on the wrist and have a bit of elegance to it. And I think this definitely fits that. Let's get the dimensions and specifications out of the way, which is one thing that I think they've done just a great job on. Yeah, really perfect dimensions. You're getting 40 millimeter case, 20 millimeter lugs. So that's exactly what you want to see out of this. Really easy to change out straps. 40 millimeter case is going to wear great on almost any wrist. Lug to lug, you're getting about 45.5 millimeters across from lug tip to lug tip. And then the watch is very thin and only about 10.5 millimeters thick. So very slim, easy to fit it underneath the cuff of a shirt. And yeah, again, exactly the kind of proportions you want to see in kind of a dress watch style. Again, despite that, you are getting 100 meters of water resistance and a Swiss automatic movement. Okay, let's talk a little bit about the movement that's inside this watch, because that's one of the most interesting things about this to me. So this movement is a Swiss movement, and it is the STP 1-11. Now, STP is a newer movement manufacturer. They started in 2008, so they don't have nearly the same track record as ETA and Sellita. But the STP-111 is essentially another clone of the ETA 2824, which is the same architecture as the Sellita SW200. And so these specs are basically identical across those three movements. You are getting it does beat at 28,800 beats per hour, which gives the second hand a very smooth 8 ticks per second sweep on it. And STP on and this is STP's kind of basic level movement, but you'll see that it is very nicely finished and decorated. You're getting some perlage work on there that you don't typically see on entry level movements from Sellita and ETA. Now, movements that use this 2824 architecture are some of the most beautiful movements that you'll see in the kind of affordable price range. It might just be that you don't see them as often. I'm used to seeing the Seiko NH35 and Miyota's suite of movements, but just something about the different layers in there and just the gears and the layout of everything just strikes me as really interesting and a beautiful one to look at. And now the STP, what they've done with theirs, with the added finishing work they've done it, really makes this a gorgeous movement, I think, in my opinion. So I really appreciate that they've done the exhibition case back so you can kind of see that and really appreciate just the aesthetics of the movement. I think one of the things that the Fifth was kind of going for with this watch is they wanted to sort of convert a lot of their customers who are into fashion watches into bringing them into mechanical automatic movement and sort of higher end pieces. And so this is, I think, meant to be the kind of an introduction to the world of mechanical watches. So I think that this is kind of a cool movement that they've picked to put in there for that particular purpose. Now, STP, they are owned by Fossil. So Fossil bought out this movement manufacturer. They use it in some of Fossil's watches, but also Fossil, I believe they own Zodiac now as well. So Zodiac, higher end manufacturer. A lot of their watches now are using STP movement. So this is the same movement you would find in a lot of Zodiac watches, which typically retail for quite a bit more than this watch does. So even though it is a newer movement manufacturer, I think it does have some pretty good credibility behind it. Being a new and a lot of, not quite as much of a track record as Sellita and ETA, I think a lot of people have some concerns about the longevity of it just because the track record isn't quite there yet. But overall, it seems to have a pretty good reputation. But flipping back over to the front of the watch, everything is really well done. It's just a very classic, beautiful look. I love what they've done with the dial. It's just a beautiful green color that has this kind of sunburst effect that really catches the light in really kind of wonderful and fun ways. And so you get a lot of kind of unique looks of that. And then just those gold hands and markers really look great against the green. And again, just the way that it catches the light and glows up in there. Just makes it a really good watch to look at. You are getting a 3 o'clock date, which is not color matched. To me, that hasn't bothered me at all. I think it looks fine there. You might argue that more color matched subtle date might look better, but for whatever reason, it just works. So they've really, I think, exercised a lot of restraint here. You go with this kind of gold and green color scheme with the gold bezel. You can very easily overdo that and make this kind of like a really a little bit too much, but they haven't done that at all. I think they've put enough restraint in here and yet balanced it with enough interest that it's just a great looking watch. It's got a great movement inside of it. It's got great specs. It's got 100 meters of water resistance. It's got a little bit of lume, great size. So I think they've really just checked everything off. The only thing that you might fault it for is that it is, there's nothing particularly unique about it. It's just that they've just done everything really well. But that's but in this price range for around $500, that's what a lot of people I think are looking for, and it is just a really good looking watch. The one issue that I have had with this is with the crown. So this is a small crown, and the Fifth, I don't know why. I'm not sure what so their name is the Fifth, and they try and incorporate that into their watches. On a lot of their more quartz fashion watches, they use a Roman numeral 5 at the 5 o'clock to make that stand out. In this case, they've gone with a 5-sided crown. And the crown is a little bit small, and it's kind of hard to turn. It's actually a little bit hard to get a good grip on there, so it makes the hand winding fairly difficult, especially if your hands are at all sweaty or slippery. It is kind of hard to hand wind. But that's really the only drawback on it. On a dress watch like this, the crown looks appropriately sized, but it is hard to get a grip on it. Case finishing is mostly polished. You get polished sides, which are a little bit rounded, a little bit of a bulbous look on the side there. Nice vintage look there. Gold polished bezel, but you are getting some brushing on the tops of the lugs. So it's always nice to get a little bit of that contrast. Just makes it a little bit more interesting on the case. And I think they've done a good job there. So case finishing is pretty decent too. Here it is on my 7.5-inch wrist, and I think it's just again a perfect size. I love that 40mm size for this style of watch. I think that's going to wear great on a pretty wide variety of wrists. It is also very comfortable. Everything conforms nicely, fits nicely. So again, I think the fifth, they kind of really did their homework here on this watch. They've gotten everything just right on it. Maybe played a little bit on the safe side, but frankly, I actually really like that. And I like that the kind of the colors that they've chose with that sort of green and gold, that's the sort of thing that kind of speaks for itself and gives it more of that uniqueness. But the overall design and dimensions are very restrained. And again, just really well done. All right, let's talk a little bit about the strap. And as you can see, I am going to give a little bit of a strap show here, and we'll try it on a couple of other ones. Because this is a dress watch, so I do want to try dressing it up a little bit and see what it looks like. But first, let's talk about the stock strap that it comes with. So they build this as an Italian leather strap, and it feels like a good quality strap. It's not the most supple leather that I've felt before. And it has kind of a smooth sanded finish, almost like a very fine suede. Which is kind of an interesting look for a dress watch. And it's this kind of moss green that matches the green of the dial very well. But you are getting a lot of green there. Now the strap is not quite as high quality as I expected when I read that it was Italian leather. Again, it's a very good strap as far as stock straps go, but maybe one of the more disappointing aspects of the watch. But it is comfortable on the wrist and kind of a cool look. But again, there's kind of a lot of green on there when you go with this look, and there might be a lot of cases where if you are using this as a daily watch, maybe green's not going to be the best color for the rest of your outfit, so you might want to tone that down a little bit. Fortunately, this watch does have 20mm lugs and quick release straps, so it is very easy to swap through different straps. What I'm putting on here is a 20mm vintage distressed Italian leather strap from Vario, in a nice brown color. And I think this colorway goes very well with the green and the gold. I think kind of this sort of light brown is a nice look to it. A dark chocolate brown would be a little bit dressier and another kind of cool look that you could go with. But if I was wearing this as a daily wear watch, I might have it more on a strap like this of this kind of, brown color. Now, if you wanted to dress this up, you can go with a black dress strap. This one is a Horween leather black strap from Nomad Watchworks, which is a really nice high-quality strap. And you can see the black gives a lot of contrast between the green and the gold. Kind of a very bold look, but it does look a lot more dressy as well. That smooth, glossy black leather does match the watch really well, I think. Okay, fine, let's try it on this Milanese mesh strap. And I think you can get away with this because this is a two-tone watch. So even though the bezel is gold, the case is silver, and so the bracelet here is going to match the case color very nicely. Milanese is a nice dressy look, kind of a vintage look, and it is also waterproof. So taking advantage of that 100 meters of water resistance, I think is kind of a cool way to do it by putting it on a Milanese strap like this. So this is kind of a bold look with that Milanese mesh, but again, I think it works and I think you can pull it off well. And again, I like the water resistance that you get putting on a mesh strap like this. So even though the green and the gold is kind of a unusual color scheme, you don't see that too often in watches, it is one that does play well with a pretty wide range of straps. Okay, so here's a quick shot of the lume on this watch. And this is a dress watch, and so the lume is not terribly bright, which you don't normally expect much out of a dress watch, but I really appreciate that they put it here. A lot of the lume that I have seen on dress watches is basically non-existent. It's like it's there, but it might as well not be. It doesn't add anything at all to the watch. This is a small amount of lume. It's not terribly noticeable, but it does allow you to read the watch, and it does last for a fair amount of time. You're getting just enough lume on the hands and those pips around to be able to tell the time in the dark. So I really appreciate that they went with that, and I like that it is kind of this subtle on the watch as well. All right, let's wrap all that up and talk about the main pros and cons of this watch from the Fifth. I think the pros we've hit on pretty well. I really love this watch as a daily wear watch. It really has everything that I would want out of a dress watch. And I've owned some lower priced dress watches. Like I've had an Orient Bambino, which I loved. Orient Bambino is a great watch, an incredible value. But I was always a little bit nervous wearing it around. It has kind of a high mineral crystal that's prone to scratching, and it only has a 30 meters of water resistance. So I get a little bit nervous when I'm around water with it. This one, with that sapphire crystal, with the 100 meters of water resistance, with that Swiss movement inside of it, great build quality, all of that, I'm not nervous at all wearing this. It's the kind of thing that I think has a good degree of ruggedness and functionality, and yet it is slim, it's easy to wear, it looks great. It's a great dress watch that is also, very rugged and reliable. And I really love that about it. That's just, it's the kind of thing that to have that extra peace of mind is just a really great thing to me when you're wearing a dress watch. And I really like the style that they've done. Again, this is a very classic design. The dial's a little bit busier with that really detailed second track, with the kind of sector dial, with the crosshairs on the middle of it. But I think all of that plays together well. Again, this reminds me not of like a really formal dress watch, but again, more of just like a classic watch that you might have gotten, 50, 60 years ago that was built for rugged everyday wear for someone who could only afford one watch. And I think this is a watch that really kind of can either be dressed up or down very easily, and you're going to get a lot of use out of this. I think the idea when they were designing this is they were trying to bring the people who were into their fashion watches into something more expensive, into something that would be, for a lot of people, to get them that one great mechanical piece that they would really wear and cherish. And I think they've succeeded in that. I think this is just a great watch, and I've really enjoyed wearing it. Now, there are a couple of complaints that I would have about this. I think the most noticeable would be the crown design. The STP 1-11 movement, just like the ETA 2824 and the Sellita SW200, there is more resistance when you're winding it than with a lot of Japanese movements. It takes a little bit more force and effort to wind the watch, and it's hard to get a good grip on the crown that they put in this. Again, the crown was designed to reflect the fifth, so the number 5, and it's a 5-sided crown, but because of that, it's not that easy to get a good grip on. So winding it is a bit of a pain, setting the time is a bit of a pain. It's not a deal breaker by any means, but that is something that kind of jumped out at me. Another minor complaint is the strap. I had hoped it would have been a little bit higher quality. The strap is a good strap. It's one that that matches the character of the watch well, feels fine on the wrist. I think a lot of times in watching this price range, you don't always get a super high-end strap, so it's not too much to complain about. But when I saw on the site that this was an Italian leather strap, I had a little bit higher hopes for what I got. So that was just a minor disappointment there. All right, finally, let's talk a little bit about the price of this watch. Now, this is a Swiss-made watch. It meets all of the Swiss-made standards. So similar to other Swiss-made watches you would get from like Tissot or Hamilton or Certina. And judging by the quality and style of this watch, I think it compares very well to those brands. And the price is similar to those brands as well. Now, those brands like Tissot and Certina and Hamilton have a much longer history, a better track record. They're using more proven movements in that they all use ETA or ETA-based movements. And often if you go to the gray market instead of retail, you can find kind of similar watches in the $300 to $400 price range pretty readily. So if you are interested in a Swiss watch, I would definitely look at those ones as well. However, the style and the design of this watch, I think, is very strong. I think it's the kind of thing that is going to appeal to a lot of people. And I haven't seen this style really out of a comparable watch from Tissot or Certina. They all have kind of their own design language and their own style. And if you really are drawn to the way this watch looks, I wouldn't really hesitate to pick it up. Now, if you're the kind of person that really values heritage and brand name and brand recognition, you might be more drawn to, these other Swiss manufacturers that have more of a history. But if that is not a concern for you, again, I think this watch compares very favorably. And if you like the style of this, I think it's a great one to pick up. And yeah, I was really surprised at how much I really liked this watch. Again, just great proportions, great feel on the wrist, great size, great style, and a really well-made watch. But all that said, I'd love to hear from you guys. Let me know what you think. Drop me a comment down below, but that will wrap it up for this time, and we'll talk to you later.